We are divided with an existentially consequential election just over 1 month away. Our country is divided. With the war in Gaza approaching its 1-year mark, our Jewish community is divided. And in response to division, we tend to seek out people who are like us, who can validate us, who can make us feel less alone. We tend to avoid people who feel fundamentally different from us. When it comes to colleagues, friends, or family members whom we can't avoid, no matter how much we'd like to, then we just avoid our differences, trying to focus on what we have in common. I fully understand this tendency. Actively engaging with difference is exhausting. Sometimes we just need to be with our people and in our comfort zone. But I'm worried that this tendency has slipped into a perpetual state. I'm worried that we are seeking the comfort of similarity to our own detriment. And I'm worried that we are losing Judaism's most core and essential mission, which is to teach us how to engage with difference. Because the fate of our community, the fate of our country, and the fate of this world depends on this. Now, our stereotypes about religion are that it encourages blind faith, falling in line, uniform practice, and groupthink. In a word, religion craves homogeneity. The suggestion that a religion might actually place value on differences and disagreements runs counter to how many of us think about religion. Yet valuing difference is at the heart of Judaism. An ancient Jewish text gives us a theological grounding for this emphasis on difference. It explains that unlike coins, yes, coins, that are all made from the same mold and therefore are all identical, we human beings are each made in the same mold, the mold of God, yet each one of us is unique. Because if each of us are made in the image of God, and each of us are different, then those differences must be divine. That Judaism celebrates our difference is perhaps best demonstrated in the blessing that we make upon seeing a large group of Jews. Yes, there's literally a blessing for seeing a large group of Jews. It's Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam chacham harazim. Blessed are you, God, sovereign of the universe, who knows all secrets. What's the secret that we're blessing here? Our ancient rabbis explain, even though our minds are unlike one another and our faces are unlike one another, God knows all. We have different thoughts and appearances from one another, and I think the secret is that is actually worthy of blessing. Judaism doesn't just celebrate our differences, it encourages them. We are each invited to interpret Jewish texts which are often confusing or contradict with one another in a way that is personally meaningful and relevant to each of us. In response to the ambiguity that is Jewish texts, it becomes each of our responsibility to decide what to practice and why. Even Rabbi Noah Rocklov, the fictional character from Netflix's new series, Nobody Wants This, begins his explanation of why we light Shabbat candles on Friday night with, and I quote, "There's a few interpretations, but I'll tell you my favorite." So while they didn't get the character based on my life exactly right, at least they nailed the idea of Judaism as an interpretive religion. Aware that a religion that allows for different and even contradictory interpretations might feel a little disorganized, our ancient rabbis assuage that fear by citing Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. All of them are given from one shepherd. Don't worry so much about disunity, the rabbis are saying. all these differences come from the same one God. It's not a coincidence then that Jews today disagree on just about everything. 2 Jews, 3 opinions is not just a funny observation about Jews, it's a direct consequence of a value system that encourages disagreement and difference. Ironically, the fact that we don't agree is probably the only thing that we can agree on. And nowhere are Jews' differences in opinion more clear than when it comes to Israel. According to a Pew study from a few months back, while 93% say that the way Hamas carried out its October 7th attack was unacceptable, a full third of American Jews say that the way that Israel has carried out its war in response has been unacceptable. And that divide is even higher, significantly higher, when you look at younger Jews. And then there's the difference between American Jews and Israeli Jews, not just about this war, but about politics, religion. The idea that Jews agree on issues related to Israel is truly laughable. Yet, despite the fact that a core value of Judaism is upholding difference, when it comes to Israel, we cannot tolerate differences, let alone engage across them. We can't even seem to acknowledge that we disagree. Many people in the Jewish community this past year have claimed to speak on behalf of all Jews, falsely claiming that all Jews think or feel a certain way. That not only misrepresents the Jewish people, it dishonors Judaism. Others turn to calls for unity, which effectively ask us to ignore, downplay, or erase our differences in the name of a broader, grander goal. Wittingly or unwittingly, these calls for unity are almost always calls for uniformity. Behind this dismissal or erasure of different voices, I believe, is a fear of those voices. Of course, not every opinion is valid or reasonable, and everyone has the right to have their own red lines. But when those red lines shut out reasonable people or large subgroups of people, those red lines might need to be re-examined. I have found that those least likely to talk to those with whom they disagree usually have the weakest arguments. What bigger sign of weakness could there be than someone not wanting to engage in a debate? Speaking of which, this problem is not limited to conversations about Israel and Palestine. It's related to our very polarized country as well, which is just weeks away from an election that will, regardless of outcome, upset half of the country. Instead of running from difference, in my opinion, we should run towards it. And in doing so, we can model for others how to do the same. But to do that, I think we're going to first need a refresher course on just why it is that Judaism values differences so much. Last night, I spoke about the value of peace in Judaism. And while looking into various texts on peace, I came across an incredible text from the Slonimer Rebbe, a Hasidic rabbi writing just a few decades ago. He has a very counterintuitive understanding of peace, one that isn't about the elimination of conflict, but rather about embracing it. He writes, and I'm quoting, "The whole world is full of conflicting forces, and according to the natural way of the world, these different parts of creation shouldn't be able to endure. It's only through the attribute of peace, a power that is beyond nature, that connects and merges all elements that are opposed to one another and brings them together. The power of peace isn't that it resolves contradiction between differing parts. It's that through peace, all of creation can endure, precisely from the merging and pairing of opposing matter." What a beautifully refreshing new way of seeing the world. All parts of creation deserve to be here, They are valuable and have some role to play. Peace isn't the absence of difference, it's the harmony that comes from holding space for difference. And the Slonimer Rebbe knows what we so often forget, that the fate of the world depends on this. Now, for those who are less moved by abstract frameworks, I'll offer 3 more concrete reasons why I think we should be embracing differences. The first is that it deepens our understanding of what is true. We are each limited human beings, unable to grasp the fullness of an issue or the complexity of the bigger picture. If we humbly accept this reality, that we do not know everything, then we will naturally surround ourselves with people with whom we differ. Those people can help us see what we alone cannot. Now, there's no better role for this than Rabbi Yochanan, a rabbi from the Talmud about 2,000 years ago, who had a friend and study partner named Reish Lakish. When Reish Lakish tragically died, Rabbi Yochanan was understandably brokenhearted, and so his colleagues sought to replace his study partner with a new one named Rabbi Elazar. So when Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yochanan started learning together, Rabbi Elazar would say, "Oh, that's a nice idea, Rabbi Yochanan. There's a text that supports you." And Rabbi Yochanan was not happy. He complained, "My old study partner, Reish Lakish, would counter every argument that I made with 24 challenges, and then I would counter those 24 challenges with 24 challenges. And yet you, Rabbi Elazar, are just validating my exact opinion. I'm not looking for someone who agrees with me. I'm looking for someone who disagrees with me." This is the reason that Jews study in chavruta, in partnership, because no one has all the answers. We can find our echo chambers, our hype people, our yes people that tell us exactly what we want to hear. But we will not grow from those interactions. In fact, we'll regress, blinded by the false sense that we've arrived at some universally accepted truth. Judaism doesn't value being around sameness because sameness limits our understanding of truth, which is why Judaism makes no exclusive claim on truth. Our vision for a redeemed world is not one where everyone is Jewish. Think about that. Even in our imagined messianic age, there are different religions. Our version and our vision of paradise is one in which differences thrive. A second reason to support difference is that it is essential in building and sustaining a just world. More than any other commandment in the Torah, we are told to look out for, defend, and even love the ger, the stranger. The stranger is actually anyone who is not like us in how they look, how they act, or how they think. The commandment to not oppress those who seem other from us is the most repeated commandment in the Torah because it is the hardest one to observe. We flock to those who are like us. It's human nature, but it's also very dangerous. A society that strives for sameness will end up oppressing those who are different. The Jewish vision for a just society is one where our differences can thrive without hierarchy. Finally, I believe a benefit of difference is not just related to truth or justice, but to love. I get to work with a lot of couples as a rabbi in workshops that I lead and in preparation for weddings that I officiate. And when I ask, what do you love about your partner? More often than not, it's something along the lines of, he just gets me, we're the same type of weird, she loves all the same things I do, she hates all the same things I do, we finish each other's sandwiches. Yet I think love is tested and strengthened more in moments of difference than in moments of sameness. Of course, couples need to share core values, a vision for their future, even a few hobbies. But fundamentally, no matter how similar two people are, they are still different individuals. And a love that doesn't respect and cultivate those differences can feel less like love and more like fear. Couples that never fight, or couples that fight all the time, suffer from the same problem, an inability to tolerate difference. Couples that fight well, on the other hand, have learned to accept those differences and even learn from those differences. This is how the Hasidic rabbi, the Ishbitzer Rebbe, a 19th century Polish rabbi, understands the verse in Genesis in which we are told that God will make a helper opposite for Adam. God's will is that our help grows from something opposite us, hence the term a helper opposite him. Love helps us grow by forcing us to confront differences and to see beyond ourselves. Yes, love is about coming together, but an equally important part of love is autonomy, allowing one another to be different. There's an image from a movie that came out last year called Past Lives that I think perfectly captures these dual aspects of love: mutuality and autonomy. The main character describes love as like planting two trees in one pot. The challenge of love is to learn to stay connected while remaining different, to share the same soil, but to grow separately. So if embracing differences can bring you to a broader understanding of truth, help make our society more just, and help you love better, hopefully you're asking, how can I start doing this? Now, it wouldn't be right if I answer that for you. You have to answer that for yourself. That's the whole theme of this sermon. But I will offer two what I hope are helpful suggestions for how to cultivate difference. And the first is that it must start with you. If you cannot tolerate being different, you certainly will not be able to tolerate others being different. It's evolutionary to want to blend in. The more we stand out, the more likely we are to attract danger. And I know that the forces of conformity and uniformity are stronger than ever today. But what we gain in safety, we lose in self-actualization. The Slonimer Rebbe, that one who has that amazing interpretation of peace, says elsewhere that each person has a special higher mission, a charge, a shlichut, which is their own to fill. When we extinguish the uniqueness inside of us, we extinguish our unique divine spark, and we withhold our unique contribution. So start by pushing yourself to be yourself, regardless of your environment. Allow yourself to not fit in perfectly. And the second tip for cultivating a life with more difference is to approach difference with more curiosity and less judgment. I realize this is easier said than done, especially when those differences feel threatening. But feeling uncomfortable is not the same as being unsafe. And in moments of discomfort, I personally have found that leaning into the difference has been the most rewarding. So when you're with someone who doesn't believe what you believe or do what you do or think like you think, start by asking them about that. I found that people usually have pretty good reasons for why they do what they do or think what they think. Two rabbis from the Talmud about 2,000 years ago, Hillel and Shammai, disagreed on almost everything. They didn't shy away from that fact, but more importantly, we're told that Hillel would even share Shammai's opinion before his own. In order to be able to do this, Hillel first sought to understand before trying to persuade. Now, my curiosity does not lead to agreement or justification of those views that are different from me. Far from it. It actually allows me to disagree in a more compassionate and understanding way. That is what Hillel modeled for us 2,000 years ago. It allows us to engage across difference. In the book of Esther, which Jews read on the holiday of Purim, Haman, the bad guy, describes the Jewish people as follows. There's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples of all the provinces. Their laws are different from those of everyone else. They do not keep the king's laws, so it is not in the king's interest to tolerate them. Haman, like many of our enemies throughout history, cannot tolerate difference. And Jews, as the embodiment of difference from others, from amongst ourselves, we threaten people like Haman. This makes us a target for those who seek uniformity, but it also positions us very well to be the champions of difference. So I urge you, in this year ahead, do not run from difference. Run towards it. Embrace it. Honor it. Learn from it. Doing so will not destroy us. Quite the opposite. It may very well be what saves us. Shana Tova, wishing us an expansive year ahead containing multitudes.